Ladies and gentlemen, Juanita Coulson.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm an old Filk singer with arthritic fingers, and I loved everywhere I go. I sing about mummies and long-dead critters, a free membership each show. I take geriatric pills, cure my old fart ills, fund my guarantee. At Filk's I'm a fixture, but I can't get my picture on the cover of the AARP. And it's an election year, right? And campaigns have never been this dirty. Benjamin Harrison, grandson of William Henry Harrison, the president who had the shortest tenure ever because he talked too long at his inaugural and died of the pneumonia a few weeks later. But Benjamin Harrison, born in Ohio, decided to try to run for president. How well did this go over with his opponents? His grandfather's hat is too big for his head, but Ben tries it on just the same. It fits him too quick, which has oft-times been said with regard to his grandfather's fame. It was bought long ago, and it made a pretty show in that jolly hard cider campaign. But it don't fit even a little bit on Benjamin Harrison's brain. And Donald Trump inserts both feet up to the stomach. Nobody has ever said things like this about a candidate, really. Who never did a noble deed, who of the people took no heed, who is the worst of tyrants' breed, Van Buren. Who like the wily serpent clings, who like the poisonous adder stings, who is more base than basest kings, Van Buren. Who rules us with an iron rod, who moves at Satan's beck and nod, who heeds not man, who heeds not God, Van Buren. Who would his friend, his country sell, do other deeds too base to tell, deserves the lowest place in hell, Van Buren. And then you're a 19th century songwriter looking for a gig. And Paul comes to you and says, we want you to write a campaign song. Oh, good, what are you paying? And they settle on the money. And he says, okay, who am I writing it for? Hey, we songwriters will work for anybody. Henry Clay. Oh, that's no problem. Lots of rhymes for Clay. Well, his name's got to be first. He has a running mate. Okay, what's the running mate's name? Frelinghuysen. Okay, I'm a professional. Hurrah, hurrah, the country's rising for Henry Clay and Frelinghuysen. Hurrah, hurrah, the country's rising for Henry Clay and Frelinghuysen. This first-rate rhyme was made of late by a Whig from the Buckeye State. Our candidates are humbug-free. Of loco-focos, they don't agree. Hooray, hooray, the country's rising, Henry Clay and Frelinghuysen. Hooray, hooray, the country's rising, Henry Clay and Frelinghuysen. Clay's a patriot through, and so is Frelinghuysen too. Then they are men of truth and candor, can't be hurt by local slander. Hooray, hooray, the country's rising for Henry Clay and Frelinghuysen. Hooray, hooray, the country's rising for Henry Clay and Frelinghuysen. No better candidates can be found, though you search the country round, more terror than that clan comprising than Henry Clay and Frelinghuysen. Hooray, hooray, the country's rising, Henry Clay and Frelinghuysen. Hooray, hooray, country's rising, Henry Clay and Frelinghuysen. And the last line is, how we'll beat 'em will be surprising. You think you have trouble thinking up rhymes. I'm doing a lot of Acapulco, as we term it, because my fingers are, I'm an arthritic old fart. Fartessa. According to Sally Childs Helton, I am not an old fart. I'm an old fartessa. Let's keep our... No new ideas for projects to start. Try a trilogy. If once was quite nice and it made money twice, why not go for 3? Take the same situation and with great elation, repeat it a couple more times. The critics may chafe, but it's certainly safe with a trilogy. If your first movie was something quite keen, try a trilogy. Just reuse your sets and you cover your bets with a trilogy. If your cast is still willing, and it's certainly thrilling, you know Roman numerals at class, for a small extra fee, you can film in 3D with a trilogy. 3 is a number beloved by all. Try a trilogy. For films or for books, you will get extra perks with the trilogy. Go forth with a grin, simply play it again. You'll surely succeed every time. It works for God too, so then why not for you? Try a trilogy. Well, I have in a row here kind of a strange collection of one of the more popular topics in Filk down through the years, especially with the Dorsai, thing called military. But there is also the fact that we're in Pennsylvania, one of the stalwarts of the independence. I think I'm a little too close to that thing. Mark will correct me, and I don't think I need to tell you who my badge says I am. As long as it doesn't go away. Let's see how well this works with a... And... don't do that. Since you all must have singing and won't be said nay, I cannot refuse when you beg and you pray. I will sing you a song, as the poets might say, of King George's old soldiers who ne'er ran away. We're the old soldiers of the king, king's own regulars. At Lexington we met with the rebels one day. We got ourselves up in our finest array. Our heads bid a stand, and our hearts bid a stay. But our legs were strong-minded and took us away. We're the old soldiers of the king, the king's own regulars. They fought so unfairly from back of the trees. If they only fought open, we'd have beat them with ease. They can fight one another that way if they please, but we don't have to stand for such tactics as these. We're the old soldiers of the king and the king's own regulars. We marched into Princeton with fifes and with drums, muskets and cannons, swords and with bombs. This great expedition cost infinite sums. But some underpaid brute doodles, they blow us to crumbs. We're the old soldiers of the king and the king's own regulars. Our general staff planned the Yankees' defeat. With stealth, we'd surprise them the next time we'd meet. We marched not expecting that we might be beat. So the general's plan of surprise was complete. We're the old soldiers of the king and the king's own regulars. 'Tis true that we turned, but that shouldn't disgrace us. We did it to prove that the foe couldn't face us. And they've nothing to boast. It's a very plain case. Though we lost in the fight, we came first in the race. We're the old soldiers of the king and the king's own regulars. We're the old soldiers of the king and the king's own regulars. When does the next boat leave? And I told Mark earlier, this is the one I stand for. I hope I don't blow all my fuses. Stay, stay. Good girl. That's Gretel. This is Hansel. G? Sure? Okay. Maybe. No, way no. Way no, way no. That's better. Okay. Many years ago in the SCA, Deborah Doyle and Melissa Williamson, who went by the names of Malcolm Gray and Peregrine Windrider, decided to write a song which they described as 2 minutes of British history in 4 verses. And the first time I heard this, I was at the London Worldcon in '79, and a gentleman, presumably part of the British version of what is SCA in the US, whatever they call themselves, who had been awake for 48 hours at that point trying to reach the convention, sang this to the tempo of this. And I was listening to him and said, that's a great song, but it needs to be a little bit faster. In fact, quite a bit faster. And I contacted some friends in the Filking community in the US and said, do you have the words to that? And they sent me the words. And the first time I tried this was at a convention, one of the first West Coast Filk conventions. And I did what I just did, and the man picked up the microphone and moved it toward me. He wasn't of your caliber, Mark. And I said, I don't think you want to do that. But my microphone won't be able to pick you up. And I told him, I think it will. I think you need to back it off just a bit. And what happened during this song was various people all around me started drumming really hard and making noises under their breath. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done? Hasten, O sea steed, over the swan road, foamy neck ship, o'er the froth of the sea. For Hengist has called us from Gotland and Frisia to Vortigern's country his army to be. We'll take our pay there and sweeter than silver. We'll take our plunder and richer than gold. For Hengist has promised us land for our fighting, land that the sons of the Saxons will hold. Hasten, no fearsmen, down to the river, dragging proud ships on the incoming tide. The Lindenwood shield and the old spear of Ashwood are needed again by the cold water side. Draw up your shield, O shoulder companions. Later, whenever a story is told, they'll say that we died guarding what we hold dearest, land that the sons of the Saxons still hold. Hasten, O house carls, north to the Danelaw. Harald Hardrada has come over the sea. His long ships he's loaded with bear sucks from Norway, Canute's crown to claim and our master to be. Bitterly find there the bite of our spear points. Unruly Norsemen too proud to die old. We'll grant him 6 feet, bless us all, just a taller land that the sons of the Saxons yet hold. Hasten on southward, strong son of God, when victory's sweet and your men have fought hard. But William the bastard has landed at Pevensey, gilding the files that you promised to guard. Form up your spears on the hilltop at Hastings. Fight till the sun drops and evening grows cold. Then die with the best of your Saxons around you, holding the ground you were given to hold. We were holding the meeting in the convention in the LA clubhouse, which it was summer and the doors were open. And I thought, these people are going to go storming out and start attacking pedestrians. That's not what I had in mind. See what Hansel will do on this. And it's July, and I'm in Pennsylvania, and another military. This was written by Bob Gibson, an old folk. There's a battle raging somewhere, and its thunder shakes the ground. Terrible silence when it's over, only death makes such a sound. And I see, yes I see, on the 3rd day of July, something's moving in the shadows. What is this that's drawing nigh? It's the Reaper, dark and silent. Must be someone's time to die. And I see, yes I see, on the 4th day of July. Yes I see, yes I see, on the 4th day of July. On a hill near Gettysburg. And a whole lot of them died at Gettysburg. So. And down through the years, a lot of professional authors have tackled a lot of different subjects that pertain to Filk. And every so often, when we had my husband and I, Buck, had a fanzine, we would get poetry from one of the then very famous authors named L. Sprague de Camp. And he would always say, I want to copyright this, don't worry about it, send me 5 extra copies of your fanzine, and I'll take care of all the copyright stuff, because he later intended and did publish several books of poetry, of his collected poetry. And we had the charming pleasure of seeing in the front of the book where it said, previously published in, and there's the name of our fanzine, again and again and again and again and again. And I really enjoyed typing his poetry. Most of it dealt with barbarians or dragons or other interesting subjects. But he sent one, and I did all the preparation of typing the stencils to prepare. I was the editor, my husband was the publisher. And I'm typing this thing, and I said, I would love to make this a song, but I can't think of a melody. It's challenging. And I thought, and I thought, and I thought, and many, many, many years later, after I'd had Gretel here for quite a while, Michael Longcore showed up with this. And he said he and his friends were demolishing a barn or a house or something, and one of them came down carrying this in dreadful condition and said, look what I found. We don't know anybody who plays these, do we? And he said, I do. He took it to his luthier, had it tidied up. It's still the Willie Nelson syndrome, but it plays nice. And I suddenly realized I could do what is now called dadgad, which is an alternate tuning, which is much, much easier for old arthritic fingers to play. And I set that poem among other things I played with, to music on this. And years after that, we were at a convention in Oklahoma where L. Sprague de Camp and his lovely wife, Catherine, were guests. And I waited until they had had breakfast, and we had had breakfast, and they're sitting there just drinking coffee and talking and obviously relaxing. And I timidly went forward. He never addressed him as Spraggy, which his wife did. Mr. de Camp, I don't know if you remember, I asked you many years ago when we published Nar al Kalb if I could set it to music, did I have your permission? And he said, sure, as long as you give me credit. And I said, well, I finally found a melody that works. At which point, and this was probably 20 years later, he started reciting it, word for word. The man published thousands of poems. This was an intellect that I don't even want to consider. But unfortunately, or fortunately, what he says in the poem has a lot to do with not just ancient history, but modern history. Nar al Kalb, or Dog River, empties into the Mediterranean 7 miles north of Beirut along the Lebanese coast. And beside it, there is a cliff in stone, and it's covered with graffiti, dating from very ancient times of the sort that say, Kilroy was here. Except Kilroy occasionally has very alien names. I stopped beside Dog River, and I watched the water pour from Lebanon's gray, craggy height to wash the Punic strand. I scanned the old inscriptions and recalled the men of yore. I tarried at Dog River, and I saw a warlike band of swarthy archers and of wicker-shielded spearmen slow. Ramses in his golden car, the lord of all the land. I stood beside Dog River, and I saw an army go of curly-bearded, hook-nosed men in crested copper helm, Sennacherib's grim horde who made such seas of blood to flow. I waded by Dog River in the days of Persia's realm, and Alexander's kilted Greeks went by with measured stride, their red-haired god led on his way, the King of Kings to whelm. I lingered near Dog River in the days of Roman pride, with iron helms and hobnailed boots and eagles borne before march Antoninus' legions with the Spanish sword at side. I sat beside Dog River when a swarm of camels bore the prophet-sheeted Bedouin, inflamed with holy zest, to wreak upon the unbeliever Allah's righteous war. I lay beside Dog River as with crosses on their breasts, mailed crusaders jingled by to keep the oath they swore, to seek the holy sepulchre from turban Turk to rest. I dozed beside Dog River when during the Kaiser's war a British army plodded through with Anzac hats awry and Highland kilts and armored cars and cannon by the score. I dreamt beside Dog River as the free French rumbled by in jeeps and tanks and canyons with eager martial glee. They yelled and waved their jugs of wine while airplanes stitched the sky. I woke beside a river, and the thought occurred to me, these gallant fighters all are gone, as those to come will be. But now calm flows ever from the mountains to the sea. This song has no end. Okay. No, you're out of place. That's out of place too. Okay. I think I'm gonna skip that one. Maybe that one too, maybe later. Too down a mood, too down a mood. Let's see if I can do this one. This one actually won some kind of prize sometime, a long, long time ago. OVFF, Ohio Valley Folk Fest, October 23rd, 25th, this year. Be there. Wonderful, wonderful music. It's always around Halloween, and we always have a lot of people who are in the mood for Halloween music. And they usually had some kind of contest to write a song. And I had, ever since I had seen Stuart Granger's King Solomon's Mines in the 50s and seen an African actor playing one of these, I didn't even know what it was called at the time. Depending on the tribe, it's either a kalimba or a mbira. It's an African thumb piano. This one came with instructions on how to play Row, Row, Row Your Boat. No. This song is called Maestra. Magic is an art that sets the witch apart, a sovereign realm of mystery, and you ask this gift of me. Yes, magic can be taught, and many there are caught. Come hear my wisdom if you will, but know, you child, this gift can kill. Dancing, you step into magic. Chancing, you dare all you may. Turning, you challenge the forces. Learning, you hold them at bay. Weaving a spell to chain evil. Scorning the threat of its lords. Singing a charm to protect you. Binding dark powers with your words. What will you gain? What will you lose? Your soul, your life, a witch child must choose. Wary, take care against darkness. Reach for the safety of light. Shunning the lure of black magic. Striving to master the white. Careful, your spell shows a weakness. Warning, you heed not my call. Spinning, control filters from you. Helpless, I now watch you fall. Ever and ever they yearn. Impatient, heedless, they burn. Send me another apprentice. And while we're in a fantasy mood, some years back, people send me things, usually verse that they've discovered in strange researches in strange college libraries. And I say, gee, that's nice. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And this one was sent by a friend who now doesn't remember sending it to me. And she said, this might be interesting. And the only information about it is it's from an anonymous medieval Irish poet. But it may recall some of the researches done by a certain professor at Oxford. Their slim, smooth bodies bend and shine. Their eyes are sharp and bright as dew. Their teeth are of the ivory's hue. Their lips are like a streak of wine. They have the dreaded strength of kings who fathered them, and queens for mother, and on the head of each and other silken moonlit tresses cling. White shields they carry in white hands, and silver emblems plainly glowing, and their blue swords which glitter going, where stout horns sound in mighty lands. In serried ranks to awful wars, immortal captains following after, their bows are borne, and like soft laughter their speeches, and their crown like stars. I like that so much better than Orc marching songs, which my son at about age 8 said, could we skip this part again? I want to hear about the elves. Well, we're still in the fantasy mood. I was very close to my mother, very close. But we never went through this particular arrangement. But I'm sure if we had been part of this particular society, she was a very, very protective and instructional mother. Follow to the river, fierce and wild. You are in the hunt tonight, my child. You are hungry, you are free. Make the change, my daughter, follow me. Waiting in the darkness trees to climb. Shrouded in these trees along the footpath, here we wait until the perfect time. Carefully chosen, those we hunt here. We are swift, the kills are quickly done. Let those two pass, not our quarry. This one coming is the one. Mother sweet, the prey that we have taken, sweet the taste of flesh and bone and blood. Now I know how you have led me hither, and to the hunt that takes life at the flood. Faced with relish for my daughter, long I've dreamed and waited for this night, when you join our werewolf clanship, share our meat, share our delight. Mother, this is grand, but you're not eating. Know that one has been reserved for you. Mine will be the next one on the footpath. Clans decided that his turn is due. Here he comes. Now. That one is Mother-Daughter Banquet. Well, you know, happy family dines together. And a few years ago at OVFF, I think it was the first time I had encountered a wonderful writer, teacher, named Tim Griffin, who wrote, among other things, a song called The Smith. And I've always been interested in ancient history and the progress of humans and people who weren't quite so human. And this one captures a lot of my enthusiasm for ancient history. And I better check this. Sometimes when you go walking, you'll find evidence of life from a time when tools were made of stone, an axe head or a knife. Our forebears made their tools of obsidian and flint, till a Neolithic genius found a shiny greenish glint. He took the shiny rock he found and kept it by his fire. And when he found the heat had made it soft, with that he grew inspired. He beat it into shapes that we can recognize today. Tools and weapons made of copper swept the Stone Age clean away. So let's hear it for the smith, working at his forge alone, for he gave us tools and weapons that are better by far than stone. In the march of human progress through the mist of time and myth, there are many whom we have to thank, but most of all the smith. Now copper was a huge advance, but soon the smith could tell that though copper takes an edge, it doesn't hold it very well. Your sword may be the sharpest when the battle shall begin, but once your blade is blunted, you will find it hard to win. Now tin's a brittle metal, not much good for work or war, but it makes you lick an alloy that you didn't have before. If you melt down 8 parts copper in your fire with 1 part tin, you can make a stronger metal and the Bronze Age can begin. So let's hear it for the smith, working at his forge alone, for he gave us tools and weapons that are better by far than stone. In the march of human progress through the mist of time and myth, there are many whom we ought to thank, but most of all the smith. Now bronze was quite the cutting edge, but every age must end, and once our fires were hot enough, the iron we learned to bend. We forged it into swords and spears and tools to plow our field, and we melted it down with carbon then, and so invented steel. Now steel's the finest metal that the smith has ever made, and it works so well we use it still in our buildings and our blades. We bend and shape our steel to any purpose we desire. And as we do remember those who mastered earth with fire, so let's hear it for the smith, marching for a forge alone, for he gave us tools and weapons that are better by far than stone. In the march of human progress through the mist of time and death, there are many whom we ought to thank, but most of all the smith. In the march of human progress through the mist of time and death, there are many whom we ought to thank, but most of all the smith. Well, let's go even further back. And what do we got here? 42, okay. I'm playing with a capo for the first time in a long time, trying to remember what I'm doing here. This is definitely a sing-along chorus. The history of Filk is full of accidental discoveries. In the beginning, a lot of people who were doing what was going to be known as Filk were independently writing songs about Heinlein's lyrics or their own original lyrics, not aware that there were people elsewhere in America or overseas doing the same thing. Only gradually did we find others were doing it, and then we started locating what is now known as found Filk. There were huge amounts of vinyl records boasting all kinds of folk music. Well, some folk music kind of intruded into other areas. One of the people we collected, Buck and I collected a lot of, was a Texas folklorist named Sam Hinton, who could sing faster than anybody I ever knew, but fortunately enunciated very clearly and included lyrics in his, which were always much appreciated. And every so often he would have a couple of additional tracks that weren't listed in the original album. And if you read very carefully in what used to be album notes on the back of the sleeve of the vinyl, you would find out he referred to this particular song as the marching song of the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. Well, I loved the song. I learned the song, and it had no credit. I didn't know who had written it. As far as I knew, he had written it, but he disclaimed on his album any knowledge. It took me about 30 years to find somebody who said, "Oh, that's by Philip Pope." Oh, okay. What you do is rip out your lyric sheet carefully and hastily inscribe the proper author of this. And now I am seeing science documentaries on television. I'm a big watcher of all kinds of science documentaries, and I read credits. I have read credits since I was a small child saying, "Why is it on the screen so long?" I can read faster than that. And music by Philip Pope. Can it still be the same, or maybe a son or relative with the same name? Because he's also writing more for science programs. And this one goes back to a debate in really early evolutionary history where they first said, "You know, I think that's on the direct line to us. It's a critter in that ancient sea." And then somebody said, "Nah." And then somebody later said, "Well, it's beginning trying to look in the DNA and stuff that maybe it is. And they have finally decided it is. So, the song is accurate. Again. A fish-like thing appeared among the annelids one day. Hadn't any parapods nor CT to display. It hadn't any eyes or jaws or ventral nervous cord, but it had a lot of gill slits and it had a notochord. It's a long way from Amphioxus. It's a long way to us. It's a long way from Amphioxus to the meanest human cuss. Goodbye to fins and gill slits, welcome lungs and hair. It's a long, long way from Amphioxus, but we all came from there. It wasn't much to look at, and it scarce knew how to swim, and Nereus was very sure it hadn't come from him. The mollusks wouldn't own it, and the arthropods got sore, so the poor thing had to burrow in the sand along the shore. It's a long way from Amphioxus, it's a long way to us. It's a long way from Amphioxus to the meanest human cuss. Goodbye to fins and gill slits, welcome lungs and hair. It's a long, long way from Amphioxus, but we all came from there. He burrowed in the sand before a crab could nip his tail. He said gill slits and myotons are all to no avail. I've grown some metapleural folds and sport an oral hood. All these fine new characters don't do me any good. It's a long way from Amphioxus. It's a long way to us. It's a long way from Amphioxus to the meanest human cuss. Goodbye to fins and gill slits, welcome lungs and hair. It's a long, long way from Amphioxus, but we all came from there. He soaked them all down in the sand without a bit of pep. Then he stuffed up his notochord and said, I'll beat 'em yet. Let 'em laugh and show their ignorance. I don't mind their jeers. Just wait until they see me in 100 million years. It's a long way from Amphioxus. It's a long way to us. It's a long way from Amphioxus to the meanest human cuss. Goodbye to fins and gill slits, welcome lungs and hair. It's a long, long way from Amphioxus, but we all came from there. My notochord shall change into a chain of vertebrae. As fins my metapleural fold shall agitate the sea. My tiny dorsal nervous cord shall be a mighty brain, and the vertebrae shall dominate the animal domain. Nyeh, 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 nyeh. It's a long way from Amphioxus. It's a long way to us. It's a long way from Amphioxus to the meanest human cuss. Goodbye to fins and gill slits, welcome lungs and hair. It's a long, long way from Amphioxus, but we all came from there. And we did. And I think and I think the last time I used that with all of the verse interpolations was when Ukalamak was stripping the stage. And somebody at Marcon said, could you get up there and do something, because they're back there taking down all this stuff as it's gonna take forever, and get the audience to sing along so that they will ignore the fact that there are men behind there moving amps and moving guitars, moving blah, 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 blah. Okay, this I think I'm gonna Acapulco. 5? 5. I'll do this one very quickly and then jump to my finish. How's that? Nice is a laminated metamorphic rock. Have fun, Judy. The only stone a fan can trust. All others are crude, if not faintly lewd. They fill a good fan with disgust. Salt is salacious and chalk is cretaceous. They're not nice. Limestone and coral can never be moral. They're not nice. We find no excuse for shale being loose. This we can never endure. Lava's all volcanic and ash is organic, and gypsum is often impure. Nothing's obscener than beds of coquina. They're not nice. Diamonds you see males are fatal to females. They're not nice. Petroliferous ooze gets in our shoes, and marble is colder than ice. We don't like a fleck of mica. It's not nice. You won't find a dope as seductive as topaz. It's not nice. Just think of the peril connected with beryl. It's not nice. A hangover starts from fooling with quartz, and basic basalt is primeval. Coal and bitumen are black and inhuman, and gold is the root of all evil. Granite's a doomstone, a head for a tombstone. It's not nice. Horrors assail us, just thinking of Talus. It's not nice. We say once again we're innocent, fan, and nothing will lead us to vice. You can't trap us with your lapis. It's not nice. That's another one from an album called Let's Advance on Science. Put together by, I think, Stanford's science department to earn money. There is a recording of it. I think it's available on Amazon, where you can hear people falling off the stage and doing chorus line kicks and that sort of thing. The album also includes Richter scale. And what people think of as the astronomer song, which is also called I Never See Stars, because all I see is computers. This, come on, behave. Every so often a song comes along by somebody else, and you hear it and you say, that's a great song, can I have that? And you consult the composer, and she said, you want to cover that? Sure. And in this case, I also had the help of my son's friend, who is now a retired Columbus cop. Someone called me from the darkness, and I answered quick and dumb, and I reckon I'd be vampire chow if rescue hadn't come. I hit the carpet running, I didn't shut the door. I don't think I'm gonna answer if a stranger calls no more, because I've been there, done that, learned what I should know. Got the footprints on my t-shirt, got the bruises I can show. Yes, I've been there, done that, learned to recognize when it's time to call for backup by the frenzy in your eyes. I got called out on a werewolf when the moon was full and fair, and I picked him up on 7th Street and tracked him to his lair. He's backed into the darkness, he's watching with a grin. I'm not dumb, I'm not expendable, and I'm not going in, because I've been there, done that, learned what I should know. Got the footprints on my t-shirt, got the bruises I can show. Yes, I've been there, done that, learned to recognize when it's time to call for backup by the frenzy in their eyes. Wizards can be touchy, and they don't have many fans. They're tight-lipped about their secrets, and they're stingy with their plans. If you end up all scorched, you only have yourself to blame. I don't recommend you push up when their hands are full of flame, because I've been there, done that, learned what I should know. Got the footprints on my t-shirt, got the bruises I can show. Yes, I've been there, done that. Learned to recognize when it's time to call for backup with the frenzy in their eyes. Now those old Egyptian curses, sure they got no sense of style. When you tangle with the mummy, you're tied up for quite a while. As strong as a gorilla and as stubborn as a mule. If you find another mummy, you can find another fool, because I've been there, done that. Learned what I should know. Got the footprints on my t-shirt, got the bruises I can show. Yes, I've been there, done that. Learned to recognize when it's time to call for backup by the frenzy in their eyes. HQ! HQ! I got to 1034 here. If I knew what the disturbance was, I wouldn't be calling in an unknown disturbance call, would I? Wait a minute. Make that a 1057. Yeah, I request assistance. Lots of assistance. Lots of assistance. 1060. Oh yes, officer is in trouble. Officer is definitely in trouble. You got a number for NORAD? I see tentacles. Thank you. And thank you, Kat Faber. Thank you.